Okay, I think we're live. I think it's working. Awesome. Hey y'all, I'm going to wait for some people to just send an email to remind everyone that we are doing our webinar today, but I'm so excited to talk to you all about how to create great live events that really boost your brand, get you more clients, and help you build a community. So one of the things that I help my clients with and that I've seen kind of as we are growing past kind of digital engagement is that more people are trying to do live events, not only with their business, but also in their personal lives. And so I created a product for people who are interested in creating events. For a lot of people are wellness, in our community are wellness business owners or coaches, and they're looking to create events that either drive more traffic to their websites or give them just generally more revenue and build them more clients. So I decided that I would host a webinar today to talk all about how live events, what they are, how they work as a marketing strategy, how they're really effective, and then also how they work for different business owners. So I'm going to just wait a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds to get some more people. If you can see me, I don't know if I can see the chat. Let me just see if I can pull up the chat really quick. Hang on 1 second. Oh yeah, there it is. This is exciting. Okay, so if you do have any questions, just feel free to pop them in the comments below and I will answer them at the end. So I can't really see the questions as I'm going through and doing this webinar, but make sure to put them in the comments below and I will be sure to answer them. Hopefully that works. Okay. Great. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Let me know if you can't see that. Okay, great. There we go. Okay. If you can't see that, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to get started. Okay, so today we are talking about how to get contacts and clients through live events. We also talk a little bit about community building. So if you're one of those people who are like, I don't really know where to start, I'm just getting started with live events, and I really want to figure out how to get started with like community building first. This will also talk about that, but mostly we're talking about contacts and client building because that's what we want. We want you to have more clients. So first of all, I wanted to tell you welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm really excited that you are interested in hosting events for your business. Events for me were transformative, and if you don't know who I am, I'm Lauren Caselli, and I own an event planning company, and we work with tech entrepreneurs. We work with tech entrepreneurs. We are to help them create really great live experiences for their businesses that help their clients just feel more engaged in their community and also helps them bring more clients as a result of the events that they host. So welcome. We're so glad you're here. I'm so excited that you're taking the leap and doing events in your business. So again, who am I? I'm the teacher. I'm Lauren and I'm your teacher. I live in Montana and I have built a business that's remote in one of the most non-remote industries, which is events. A lot of times people are like, well, how can you be a remote event planner? And it was a long build, but we currently work with clients all over the country. I personally really believe in the power and impact of face-to-face connections. I think it's super important. And then I booked out my client roster within 18 months of hosting my first live event. And I really believe that if you are kind of not necessarily an extrovert, but if you really enjoy hosting people, if you're one of those people who enjoys being in person with people, events can really be game-changing for your small business. So if you're here today and you are interested in learning about how events can really change the game for your business, before you get started, I want to make a couple notes. Number one, make sure you're giving yourself this time. You showed up here, you're watching this live stream, so give yourself the time to close your phone, exit out of other browsers, and get your notebook and your pen ready because we're going to move through a lot of information, and I want to make sure that you get as much as you can. Number two, if you have questions or want to connect during or after the webinar, first of all, you can comment, which I should have said in the slide, but also if you want to make a post on Facebook, just use the hashtag 5CourseTips, and I'll search that hashtag after this live stream and we can talk about all the things. And then later on, lastly, later on during the webinar, I'm going to show you how you can get our wildly popular course, Sell More Sponsorships, for free. So if you are hosting an event and you are trying to engage sponsors, we have a course for that, and I'm going to show you how you can get it for free. Okay, so number one, first of all, if you are on the chat, and let me just make sure that I can see the chat before I start telling you about being in the chat. So hang on 1 second. There's the chat. Okay, cool. So tell me in the chat if you have ever wanted to host, or number one, have you ever wanted to host a live event for your business? Have you ever been interested in hosting an event, or are you just here to kind of understand how live events can help you build client base in your business? And then I also want to know, do you feel less connected to your clients and your customers online than you do to them in person? This is a common kind of myth that people are, kind of a common feeling that people have, is that they don't really understand who their online community is, and they really want to be in touch with people in person. And then also tell me in the chat, why haven't you hosted a live event yet? What's holding you back, and what's been hard about potentially hosting a live event for your business? Okay, so once you've done all of those things, let's say you are the person who wants to build your community, but it feels like you're screaming out into the universe and nobody is listening to you. So how are you supposed to get people to be a part of your circle if they won't even engage with you or what you have to say? So this is really common when people are, go full force on social media. It feels like they're talking into the ether, or they're talking to their friends and family. They're not really talking to, potential clients, things like that. So let me know if any of this resonates with you. You're hoping to build your community, but it feels like nobody's responding. And potentially it's you if you've tried all the internet marketing tactics, but you don't feel connected over DMs and in comment threads. This is another one. Maybe you're commenting and nobody's responding back, or they're not responding back with good comments. You really wish you could easily get more clients without Facebook ads or Instagram lives, or honestly doing a ton of marketing that you don't have time for. I think sometimes it seems really easy to do a ton of marketing online, and not a lot of business owners, especially if you're trying to do your core service, have time for that. And so lastly, you wish you could just get all of your people together in a room so you really could go deeper with them and really get to know them. Okay, so if any of that sounds like you, just let me know in the chat. And then going forward, I want to tell you about the things that you'll learn today. So today, you'll learn number one thing that nobody talks about when hosting live events. This is something I don't think people really know or talk about. And I think a lot of times when someone says, I really want to host a live event, they don't quite know what they're getting themselves into or why they're doing it. Number two, we'll talk about why events work well for community growth and why that's important. Number three, we'll talk about how live events lead you to booking more clients. And before we get started, I want to share my story with you so that you can understand why I'm so passionate about live events and how I know they work, not only for me, but also for my clients. So in 2014, my business was a total mess. I was up working late every single night, and to be honest, this picture was taken when I had received some hard feedback from a demanding client. So I had a client at the time. I wasn't doing events then, but I was doing copywriting and marketing, and I had a client who I had done her whole website for like $500. It was so cheap, and written her whole website, and she had written me some really demanding and hard feedback on like a Friday night as I was going into the weekend. So it was really tough. I was taking every project that I could get my hands on, and I was burning out super fast. So let me know if you can relate to that. It seemed that my ideal clients were inaccessible, and the ones that I was finding were nickel and diming me. So I don't know if that sounds like you, but it's definitely something that can feel really, really hard. I just wanted more people to know about the awesome work that I was doing, but literally no one knew who I was. And those that did thought I did copywriting. So I switched my business model from copywriting to event planning maybe about 2 years in. And for a long time, people still thought I was a copywriter, which was really, really hard. And then in early 2015, so about 4 years ago, that all started to change. I hosted my first live event with less than 6 weeks to plan, market, and execute the event. And when I did, I booked out my client roster within 12 months of my first event. So currently in our business, we have currently a community of amazing business owners and a 6-figure business and a team to help me. Last year I hired my first employee and hoping to hire more in the future. And it all started with live events, and that's why I'm so passionate about them. So I ran this course last year, and we had a really great group of students. And so we had one of our students was Ashley Brown, who is an Events That Convert student. She said about our course that it allowed her to get clear on the course that she wanted to do. And the course made it seem a lot more possible. The content that we created was invaluable, and it was really, really good and nice to have the information and learn things that she didn't know before. So if you're interested in events at all, this course will teach you a lot, and also you won't be struggling in indecision. You'll just be doing the dang thing already. So if you're interested in hosting events, imagine what it would be like to not have to run a ton of online marketing that you don't have time for, or to have the people you want to be in community with the most excited to come to an event that you host. So where do we start? So the first topic, sorry, I'm like racing ahead. So the first topic that we want to talk about is the number one thing that no one talks about when they're hosting live events, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Events are a marketing strategy first. So events help you grow your audience, and they also help customers get to know you faster than other marketing efforts. So most people will say like, well, I really want to host an event so that I can make a ton of money, and you can totally do that, but you have to have a community, or you have to be comfortable selling one-on-one to existing clients or potential clients first. So it's really important that if you have a marketing strategy, or if you don't understand, if you think that events are a way to add revenue only by selling tickets, they are, but you have to have an engaged community first. And the bonus about events is if you do have an engaged community and you're launching and hosting an event, it also grows your community as well and helps you get more clients. Because a lot of times, let's say you're not working with someone one-on-one, or if you're trying to sell them a high-level service, but they come to like a retreat or a weekend, they'll usually, or there's a percentage of the people in the room who will want to work with you more later. So just going back to the slides, because events are a marketing strategy first, this means that you need to be sure you know your target audience. It also means you need to have an idea of how your event gets your client to take action. You also need a next step for people once they immediately leave the event. So those are the 3 things that you need when you're thinking about hosting your event. So who is your target audience, how your event gets your client to take action, and a next step for people immediately once they leave the event. And why is this important? Why is it important to have those 3 things? Because confusion kills conversion. People are confused about what you're doing, or confused about who you serve. It's going to really mess up the conversion for that event. So and conversion means like people who are going from prospects to becoming clients. So I wanted to show you this example. This is from a community event local to where I live in Montana called You're Worth It, and they were students, or Hannah was a student of mine last year, and she really loved our templates and all that fun stuff. But I wanted to show you why they do a really good job of understanding who their target audience is. So number 1, workshops for women by women. So they are really targeting the female demographic. And they also have this huge, long kind of like list of people who this event is for. So I think a lot of times one of the biggest mistakes that I make is that people won't really talk about their client demographic or who the event is for, but they do a really good job of talking about that this event is for business owners, it's for sales reps, it's for women transitioning into leadership, early or mid-career women who want to move up and on, and those who want to negotiate some kind of increase or changes. So notice they didn't say it's for women in business or women. It talks about specifically, it was a pricing workshop, so they talk about specific elements of these individual communities, and that's really, really important for your event to be successful. So briefly, the anatomy of a great event, just to recap this, you have to know your audience, your client avatar. So for me, I knew at the time that I wanted to host business owners who were maybe like 0 to 3 years in business, very new at it, looking for a community, feeling like they didn't know anyone, and I wanted to get everyone together to do kind of talk about business, talk about their struggles, things like that. So you have to know who your community is. You also have to know the problem that you're solving. So does your community need more time? Do they need more money? Do they need more connections? Do they feel kind of out of the loop? So you have to know the problem that they're solving. And then lastly, you have to know the next step that they can take. So either join a coaching community, sign up for our next event, or go to our workshop. You can also have it be like sign up for our email list, but usually events convert really, really well. And so you want to have an offer that moves people to the next step of, you know, what they are and who they are and what they want to do. Okay, so number 2, why events work really, really well for community growth and why that is important. So before we dive into that, like answering that question immediately, I want to talk about the contacts. You know, we talk about contacts versus community versus clients. So contacts are people that you know. A contact is someone that you wouldn't feel, you know, hesitant about picking up the phone and going to call them and say, hey, let's have lunch. So that's a contact. A community is people who know each other. So you can have tons of contacts. You can have 1,000 contacts, but if they don't know each other, that's not a community. That's just like your individual network. So a community is not only people you know, but people that also know each other. And obviously clients are people who hire you, who give you their money or trade you something in order, you know, if you do a trade of services or trade of product, in order to kind of create a symbiotic relationship. So that's the definition of all of those 3 things. And the reason that events work really, really well for community building is people want to feel like they belong. And people don't really belong when they're just a contact, but they do belong when they're a part of a community. So they're waiting for someone to host the event. I should say host. I'm going to just change it right now. So people want to feel like they belong in a community. They're waiting for someone to host an event consistently. They want to like come every month, or if they miss it, they want to be able to, you know, come at another time. And as the leader, you have the ability to transform someone. You have the ability, and you know, if you're a coach or a service provider, you already are doing this in your one-on-one work. But as the leader of a community, you have the ability to do this kind of at scale, not just one person, but 10 or 50 or 100 people, depending on how large your events are. And so if you can identify and help make change for, you know, individual people in the room, your event and then also your community will grow via word of mouth. Because what happens is, again, community is people who know each other. When someone who's a contact of yours comes to an event and then they bring someone else, that is how communities grow. So the goal here is to really, really, really help people so that they want to be a part of your community going forward. Okay. Next. So the 3 types of events that you can host. Number 1, it's workshops for those of you who want to teach something. There's also networking events, and those are for people who want to build your network. So maybe your community isn't strong yet, or maybe you don't really have anything to teach, or maybe the audience that you're targeting isn't someone you actually can teach something to. So a networking event is great if you just want to start building your network and start kind of understanding your local community. And then the 3rd thing is retreats for diving deeper with high-level clients. Community growth happens through amazing experiences. That's the number 1 thing that, you know, that I like to take away. I want people to take away. If there's nothing else that you take away from this webinar, it's that community growth happens through amazing experiences. So if you, and amazing experiences are defined many different ways. And we'll talk about some of the troubleshooting things there in a minute. But an amazing experience for a community could be, you know, you have a small event and you deep dive with each person to kind of understand their business challenges and their business struggles. An amazing experience could be, you know, a small, a 50-person event where you pair people up so that they can meet new people. And in order to create an amazing experience, you have to make sure you're inviting the right people, so making sure that the people in the room want to meet the other people in the room. You also have to make sure that you're solving the right problem. Sometimes, you know, people will say, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of wellness providers in the room and that's my target market, and then I'm going to teach them how to bookkeep. But maybe wellness providers don't really want to bookkeep, or the ones that you're inviting don't want to bookkeep. So you have to make sure that you are solving the right problem for the people in the room. And then the third thing you have to do is make sure you're creating the best experience. So are you, and I'll talk a little, I think I talk a little bit about how to create a really great experience in this webinar, but examples are you introducing yourself to anyone? Are you everyone? Are you focusing on making people feel comfortable? Are you asking people about themselves? Are you introducing them to other people? Are you really bringing that facilitation energy to your event? Okay, so I do have a little bit of a case study about my own event, so the Boss Lady Bash. So the Boss Lady Bash, the people in the room wanted community. They felt isolated at the time. There wasn't a very strong social media presence in the town that we live in, and so people wanted to feel like they were part of a community. And I knew that I could create a great experience to connect people and get them together. So this community ended up growing via word of mouth, which led to more clients for my business. So even though none of the people in the room that I was targeting actually ended up being clients, because I work primarily with business owners, I primarily work with people who host larger events, and none of these people were event hosts. It was still a great experience because everybody knew that I wasn't, that I really genuinely wanted to build a community and genuinely had their best interests at heart. And so it made them feel comfortable to come to this event. And thus the community ended up growing because more people wanted to attend. So another, case study of You're Worth It, which I showed you above, people wanted to effectively negotiate and create more sales. That's a big topic nowadays, especially if you're not a salesperson. It's kind of, it's nice to be able to see, to have someone teach you, and that's really important in order to run your business, to or to be able to know how to market and sell. So now they're hosting a series of, so after, they figured that out in their community, they taught that in their workshop, and now they're hosting a series of workshops to break it down further. So people who went to the full day event wanted more, so their next step was, now we're going to host a series of workshops to really get you to go a little bit deeper into the event. So that's kind of the progression of their event. So I want to make a note, in-person events are transformative. So when people have their lives transformed, they tell other people about it without prompting. People believe in the power of a great recommendation. And if you're not great at promoting yourself, let others do it for you. You might have to ask for it. I think a lot of times people are like, well, if people really love it, they'll talk about it, which is true, but you can also remind your audience to do that. You can always say, if you had a great experience, please bring someone next time, or please tell someone. But that's how community grows. And when your community grows and when it's big and when people really believe in you, you will start getting more referrals because they will recommend you and your service. You will have better visibility and more visibility, and people will trust you. Again, the reason events are in-person events are transformative is because you get more interaction on site. More people who come to an event will interact in a way that is extremely fulfilling and very focused than many other things like Instagram. One of the things that you want is attention, right? You want attention on your business, on your brand, on your face, and events do that. Online, people are constantly switching their attention from one thing to another. But when you're in an event, people are focused primarily on you. And then the other reason events can be transformative is because when you're in person, you can hold people accountable and actually help them actually do the work. So, even like this webinar, I told you to X out of your browsers, but you might still be searching around, or you might, get a phone call in the middle of it. But when you're at a live event, you can't really do that. And so they're transformative because the attention is more on you. Okay, so if you are in the chat, I want to know what type of event, based on kind of what we just talked about, what type of event do you want to host? Are you a network person? Or a networking person? Do you want to host a workshop? Are you more interested in a retreat? I'd be curious to know what sort of events you want to host. Okay. Number 3, how do live events lead you to booking more clients? This is the crux of everything. So first of all, we were talking about what we need to know about live events, what it is, their marketing tools. Number 2, we were talking about why it leads to community growth and thought leadership. And now we're talking about the how. How do live events lead you to booking more clients? So for attendees, if you have a strong call to action or a next step, you can immediately book clients right away. Some people aren't 100% comfortable with this, but what I found is the more you do events, the more comfortable you can get with this. So let's say you are doing an all-day workshop and you're teaching people how to price themselves, to use Hannah and Tessa's event. You're teaching people how to price themselves. Well, what you could do is if you felt confident that your audience really, really wanted something next, you could say to them, hey, I host one-on-one sessions and they're X amount of dollars an hour, and if you really want us to sit with you and implement over the course of 2 to 3 hours, that's the next step. That's what you need to do next on this. And that's a really great way for people, not everybody will take that away, but it's a really great step for some people who, maybe the people in the room who really, really do want to work with you. And then what you can also do is you can get them contact information and send curated content or launch services to this group of people, or ask them to share. So never ever leave an event without getting the best contact information from anyone, so that you can continue to keep them in your community and keep them up to date with what you're doing. Okay, some examples. These are all things that people have done before. Number 1, book a one-on-one strategy call with me post-event. You can also tell people to join our group program. We meet weekly. It can be free or paid. You can tell one friend that you love this event and have her sign up for our communication. So basically you're asking your audience to help you grow your email list. You can also just ask people to share it on Instagram if you're really trying to focus your social media following and have more organic search via social. It's another really great way to do that. Okay, but what about people who aren't at the event? How do you build those people or bring those people into your community? So the way that events work is that they solidify your reputation. If you can make a change for people, they'll tell their friends. We talked about this a little bit earlier. And again, their friends may be looking for a similar service and might check you out. So for example, let's say you go to an event, or let's say you have someone who comes to your event, they had a really great time, but they're not really interested in your services yet. But they're out in the community and one of their friends says, hey, I'm really looking for a web designer, I'm really looking for a coach, a nutrition coach. You can say, oh, I went to this really great event with this woman, XYZ. You should contact her because she's a great nutrition coach. So really the power of events is to solidify you as a thought leader. And if you do a good job and if you teach people in a way that makes people feel like you understand what you're talking about, then it's a really great way to grow your community and then also grow your influence beyond just the event that you're going to, the event that you're hosting. And again, this compounds over time and you start getting recommended over and over and over again. So especially if you're in a smaller community or in a really, really small niche, sometimes if somebody hears your name 2 or 3 times over and over again, you start getting more bookings. And that's what happened to me. People, I live in a smaller community, but I was really focused on doing corporate events for technology companies. And so I was the only one in that niche. And when people started saying, oh, I wish I knew someone who did corporate events, blah, 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 it really started growing because I was the only one. My name came up more than once. So that's sort of how some of my clients found me. And lastly, events create leadership. Most people aren't leaders, and I think a lot of times, especially you as a business owner, if you take on kind of a business, you have to have some sort of leadership capability. But most people, especially maybe people that you're working with, aren't necessarily leaders. Or some business owners who do own businesses don't necessarily want to be leaders in a larger community. Maybe they just want to be leaders in kind of in their business and with their clients, and they wouldn't take the risk to host an event. But when you take a risk on something public like an event, you automatically get credit as a leader, which is amazing because, I think one of my favorite quotes, especially when people are scared about launching events, is nobody who's ever achieved more than you will ever judge you. And so when you take a risk on something public, even though it's scary, even though you might feel like people are going to judge you, you automatically give yourself credibility as a leader for doing that hard and scary thing. And if you're trying to talk to yourself about it, the people who believe in you or who have achieved more than you or going the way that you want to go will never judge you for doing that because they know how hard it is to kind of take risks and be a leader and be visible. So that's how events create leadership. And then lastly, leadership / boldness, because that's what leadership is, leads to more visibility, which leads to more opportunities. Again, if you're showing up as a speaker or you're hosting monthly event series and you're reaching more people, those keep you visible in the community, in the physical community in which you exist, and that gives you more opportunities. Okay, so pro tip on this, you have to ask people to share your genius. It is so, so, so important that you ask people to share your genius. One of the things that I always talk to people about is it is much rarer to get people who want to. It's much easier to just ask people to share your genius, to say, hey, please, share this on your social media, sign up for my email list, tell a friend, rather than hoping and praying and wishing that someday someone will recommend you, and then you'll get a client. So get in the habit of asking people to share your genius. Get in the habit at your event to ask people to either sign up for a list. Get in the habit of asking people to be a part of your community. Just get in the habit of asking. Okay, to recap what we just learned. Events are marketing tools that help generate leads. They also help you develop thought leadership, they also help you to be positioned as a leader in your industry. They also help you grow a community or be kind of at the center of the spoke of a wheel that things revolve around. So events are really great marketing tools. They convert higher from a return on investment standpoint than lots of other marketing methods, and they can get you really great results over time. Events work well to build your authority because you can make a big change in a short period of time. So for example, if you're doing a workshop and you're teaching someone over the course of, or a group of people over the course of 2 hours, you are giving them focused, dedicated learning time and implementation time, and that is often a big change for people in a short period of time. And that's really powerful. You also have to know your audience, you have to know their problem, and you have to know a method to solve it via your event. So you have to make sure that your event is worth it, and you have to make sure that your event, or in order for them to believe that your event is worth it, you have to be able to get them results or help them move through the process of, getting stuff done at your event. Events are a great place to offer your service to your attendees the next step. So not all of them will buy. So events are a great place to say hey, come do my one-on-one service. Hey, sign up for our monthly events, but you have to, so once you get someone in the event, you have to give them a next step to do. Not all of them will do it, but even if a small fraction of them does it, even if you say, hey, I do one-on-one coaching for $1,000 a month, and you get 3 people out of 10 because you've helped them so much, it's, $3,000 a month. You've just had a $3,000 profit at your event. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some reasons that you came here. You're here today because you want to stop being unknown and finally be more visible around your craft. You also want to be the host that people love and look up to, and you want to get your people together more often with less effort. You want a really simple step-by-step process that helps you get more clients booked. Because who doesn't want that? Are we all constantly looking for clients? Now is your time. I really believe that now is the best time to be doing this because it's your time to finally host a sold-out client-winning event experience if you've been wanting to do it. It's your time to stop hearing crickets every time you open your event cart, like nobody's buying and what's going on. It's your time to become the speaker and the teacher the world knows about instead of the one that no one knows about. And I spelled that wrong. There we go. No one knows about. I'm going to even bold and underline it. Oops. Okay, so remember, nothing that we've taught today is theory or learned from a book. These are strategies that me and my clients have used to get great results from live events for their businesses. I don't have any advantages or special skills. I don't have any secret tool or access to expensive resources. I just have a system that works. And if I can do this to grow my business, I promise you can too, as long as you put the work in. So that's why today, in case you missed it, I'm opening the doors to Events That Convert. It is our signature course program, and I'm so excited to offer it again for the second time. So Events That Convert is an online course that teaches you exactly how to plan, market, and host a live event experience that converts more attendees into clients. So we teach you all those things. We teach you the planning part, we teach you the marketing part, and we teach you how to host and what you need to be doing on site, and not just how to do that, but how to do that so that your attendees turn into clients or turn into fans. So we met Ashley above before. She said that Events That Convert allowed me to get clear on the events that I wanted to do. The course made it seem a lot more possible. The content provided was invaluable, and it was really, really good. It was really nice to have the information and to learn things I didn't know before. So, like I said, no more struggling in a decision, just doing events. So Rochelle was also a part of our course last year, and she said, after taking Events That Convert, I feel confident in hosting my first event. Before I took it, I was thinking, is this a good idea? Am I missing something? There were so many things that you did cover that I wouldn't have ever thought about, which was so helpful, which is really awesome to know. I think a lot of times, in our heads, especially often as women or people who host a lot or business owners, we kind of have a general idea of all the things that go into event hosting, but sometimes, you miss things, and it sometimes is a crisis. And the goal here is for me to bring some things up to you for not only planning, but also hosting and marketing your events. So if you do Events That Convert, you'll get 8 modules. Actually, there's only 7 modules. You get 7 modules. You get 5 live Q&As with me, so I can help with your event progress. You'll get 10 worksheets, or more than 10 worksheets. We have a ton of worksheets in there. You have an exclusive course Facebook community. You'll get all of the tech tutorials that I have on, how to create a registration site, all that fun stuff. There's some good tech tutorials in there. And then I'm always willing to create more if you have questions about, how to set up. Well, I do have one on how to set up your registration site, but maybe connecting it to an email provider. And then I do have access to all course updates. So we did do some new content for the course this year, and then thinking about going forward in the future, probably be doing some course updates. But if you buy today, you have access to all of the course updates forever and ever and always. So at the end of the course, you will have outlined, planned, marketed, and sold your live event. So, if you're still struggling with deciding whether or not you want to host one at the end of the course in 7 to 8 weeks, you'll have already done all of that stuff. You'll have a solid strategy for converting event attendees into new clients. So do you want, you can host an event and then go home and be done with it, or you can host an event that gets you clients, and that's important. You'll understand the money behind running an event, which is huge. Most of our clients are, we'll sit down and do a budget with them, and they'll be like, oh, it's way more than I thought it would be. Where can we cut? And so we talk all about how to create a really solid event budget, things you need, things you don't need, and where you're going to spend the most money. And also, when we talk through our event budget, we talk about how many tickets you have to sell to make your event feasible. And if you don't think you can sell that many tickets, how do we downsize or scale down the event? Or cut the event, or move to a different location so that you can sell the amount of tickets that you want to sell. And then we'll talk about real marketing strategies for your event, ways to really do outreach and go after clients and things like that. I'm going to walk you through the modules, and I can actually walk you through the back end of it as well. Some people are always interested in seeing what the course looks like. So Module 1, you learn the difference between lead generating events and profit pursuit events. So what's the difference between an event that generates leads and what is an event that makes you more money? You'll understand the theory behind using events as a part of your business model, how they fit in, how to use them the most strategically. I think not a lot of people do that. They don't really think about hosting an event as a strategic piece, and so we cover that. And then in Module 1, we'll also begin your venue research, because choosing a venue is the first step to marketing and launching your event. You can't really do it without a venue, and most people don't know how to do that research, or they have a hard time deciding. So that's what we do in Module 1. Module 2 is all about agenda creation and event structure. So learn the preferred cadence and flow of your event each day based on research from hundreds of events. Understand the content you need to plan in advance and the content you'll need to have flexibility around. So, what needs to go out, what do you need to bring to the event, and what do you need to kind of just not try to control that to happen organically. You'll learn a couple new educational models that only work in person, not online. That's my favorite. It's one of my favorite checklists that we have. It's basically a whole checklist all about like how you can engage people in a different way than maybe they've been engaged before, and it works really well at conferences or small mini conferences, mini retreats, things like that. Module 3, we'll talk about pricing and budgeting. You'll get a clear budget that will help you plug in your anticipated ticket numbers and see how pricing will affect your bottom line. You'll learn the implications of fixed versus variable costs for an event and why these costs are important. And then you'll be able to confidently decipher your break-even units, aka how many events you have to sell to make it worth it. In Module 4, you will we'll talk about marketing and attendee recruitment, which is the biggest hurdle for most event hosts. You'll understand the basics of how an event sales page and how to create one effectively. You'll learn the easiest way to fill your seats with a process and email templates to back it up. You will get systems and templates so that you can start marketing with one big leg up instead of creating everything from scratch, which is like huge, especially when you're marketing. Sometimes I think it's like exhausting for people to like not only come up with the event but also come up with all the marketing tools. So we come up with templates and tools for you to use. Okay, so Module 5, we'll give you timelines and to-do lists for your planning. We'll teach you when you should be launching, planning, and onboarding customers in clearly reversed engineered timelines. So basically we'll give you a big project management sheet, and it'll show you like when do you need to be like reaching out to your customers, when do you need to be, launching your, website, that kind of stuff. And then we'll teach you what things are crucial when planning and what things are nice to have. Okay, Module 6, we'll talk about registration, communication, and attendee care. You'll get a live demo of how to set up your event registration, complete with questions you must ask in advance. So, the famous one is dietary restrictions, but we have a list of all the questions you should be asking your attendees when they register. We'll craft your unique attendee communication plan to maintain momentum and excitement after your attendees have bought their ticket, and you'll be working from templates that I've created for you and the ones that we use in our business. And then lastly, we do have 8 modules. Module 7, crafting the on-site experience. You'll learn what is most important for you as a host when you're on-site. You'll also understand the importance of hiring an admin or an event planner to be on-site. And then you'll also create your unique post-event documents and processes that will solidify your attendees as high-level clients that have a lifetime value in excess of other clients, which I think is actually the last module. Yeah, I just have 2 slides accidentally. So so the Module 7, the crafting the on-site experience, we talk all about like what you should be doing in an event and what you shouldn't be doing in an event. And I struggle with this even because I'm an event planner and I host my own events. So I definitely struggle with like what should I be doing on-site versus like what should I be doing in advance and what should I delegate. So we talk about the things that you need to be delegating versus the things that you need to be doing when you're at the event. And then we also talk about the post-event, how to capture those clients, how to nurture them, how to make sure that they are in your world and that you guys keep connected to you so that they can hire you either immediately after the event or close to after the event. So if you visit eventsthatconvert.com, you can enroll, which is exciting. Doors are now open. So some of the questions that people have always asked, so what's the investment? So if you hired someone to plan your event for your one-day workshop, it could easily cost you $4,000 depending on who you hire. If you wanted to take a college course on how to plan an event, it would easily, even if you went to a state school, cost you $7,000, $3,500, but definitely in the thousands of dollars. And if you hired us to one-on-one plan for your event, it would be over $25,000. So if you are ready to take the course, you can start now, get started today for one payment of $167 or with 3 payments of $167 after, or you can pay in full for $549, which is a steal. And you also save almost $120 if you pay in full. So if you are interested, if you're really wanting to make this year the year of the live events, head on over to eventsthatconvert.com to enroll. Okay, so the way that you're going to check out using our payment processor. So when you visit eventsthatconvert.com, you immediately will get an email from ConvertKit that will give you kind of a welcome, and you'll get access to our Facebook group, and then you'll also get access to our course content to get started. And I forgot to pull up the back end. I was going to show you the back end of Events that Convert. So here is the course outline. You can see we have lots and lots of content in here. This might like start playing. Yeah, it will.
Hey there!
Oh, there I'm at. So basically this is our welcome module. It helps you join our Facebook group. We do an overview of the whole course. We talk about the types of events that you can plan. We talk about how to use the Google Drive. All of the documents and spreadsheets are set up in a Google Drive. And then you'll get access to the Google Drive system here. And then we talk all about, this is strategic planning and venue research. We talk about lead generating versus profit pursuing events, how to use events as for your business model, do's and don'ts of venue research, using venue research spreadsheet. So there's tons of information in here. You get overview of different session formats. This is a video, but I also have this sheet. Oops.
Hey there. So in this last lesson, we're going to talk about the overview.
So much talking. But I have this whole checklist for you. It's 3 pages of different, like really fun, different kinds of events that you can use. Like, you know, if you're doing Buzz Group is a small units that break off from a larger assembly in order to generate ideas for a larger group to discuss or act upon. So there's a lot of fun exercises that you can use at your events. We talk about budgeting. And this is going to like start up again, so there we go. But we have a budget, like things you need to budget for, like things to write down. And then we also have a budget, which doesn't seem to be in here. Maybe it's in this one? It's in the Google Drive.
Hey there.
So we talk all about our, you know, your sample budget, which is in here. It's in the Google Drive system. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to go back to where we are. All right, I'm going to look and see if there's any questions in the live stream. So hold on one second. Oops, that's not right. Hold on. Okay. So let me see if there's any questions. Okay. Okay, so we do have a couple questions. So one of the questions that actually I often get a lot is how do I get a venue for free if I'm working with on an event? So definitely, I've definitely gotten lots of events for free, venues for free. The number one way that you can get a venue for free is if you ask, and you ask a lot. So I would recommend, number one, start with people you know. If you don't know, if you know like a coffee shop owner or a coffee shop barista, or if you, know someone who owns a, small boutique, or if you have, if you visit the same coffee shop every single day, go in and pitch them your idea and be collaborative and say, we'll bring some people in here and they'll buy coffee and we're going to host a small workshop, and would you be our host sponsor and host partner? You have to consider, especially if you're trying to get a venue for free, you have to consider like what's in it for the venue, and if you can sell it to them in a way that's exciting, you definitely can get a venue for free for sure. What do you do if you've tried to reach out to people and still no one is buying tickets? This is a really good question, because I think sometimes, especially when you're marketing an event, it can feel really, really defeating. Number one, know who your audience is. And if your event isn't really speaking to your audience, or you don't know your audience, physically know them, couldn't call someone in your audience up on the phone that you could help, then you're really going to have not a great time convincing strangers on the internet. So it's really important for you to go know your audience, have a couple cups of coffee with people who you might think about inviting to the event before you launch your event or before you conceive of your event idea. Do some validation that your event idea is good, and then reach out to them and see how that goes. But sometimes you have to do that work on the front end instead of on the back end. Personal outreach is always my favorite. I think it yields the best results. So I really, really recommend you trying to do some personal outreach. So yeah. And then lastly, what to do if you want to build more profit into your events? So number one, if you want to build more profit into your events, you have to have a community that's going to bear a significant amount of event expense. I would say the number one thing that people don't, and this, maybe I'm not getting to this question correctly, but the number one thing that people don't really do is they don't really pay themselves for their time to plan and host the event. So you have to think, if you had hired someone to do this for you, how much would that have cost you? And what sort of profit margin are you making, on the time that it's spending you to do an event? So just like anything, just like a webinar or a marketing campaign, it's a lot harder to do it the first time around. And so you have to take that into consideration when you're hosting your first event. Now, if you can systemize and process it and make it easier, then your profit margin just by sheer amount of labor will be easier once you go into it, doing it more more consistently. So that's a really great thing to think about. If you are struggling to make ends meet on events, how can you make it simpler? How can you build a process for it? And how can you remove yourself as much as possible from the planning process so that you are not spending a ton of time? Because time is money. So if you want to build in more profit, spend less time. Cool. I think that's all our questions. As far as I can tell. I can't ever tell on eCam if there are questions that come in. Oh, maybe, oops. Oh, yay, Ashley. Oh, thanks, Ashley. Cool. Well, if you have any questions, you can always put them into the comments below. I'm happy to just tag me. I'm happy to answer them. And if you haven't bought Events That Convert, www.eventsthatconvert.com, we have a really great group starting on May 6th, and I would love for you to be a part of it.